The Vatican on Monday issued a 20-page declaration denouncing gender-affirming surgery and surrogacy, calling them, quote, grave violations of human dignity. The document, titled Infinite Dignity, has been in the works for 5 years, the Associated Press reports. Pope Francis gave final approval to it on March 25th.
Critics of the doctrine, mostly from the Catholic trans community, are surprised that it got the stamp of approval from the Pontiff, who's made outreach to the LGBTQ plus community a cornerstone of his papacy. He's the Pope. It's a religious institution. They can make their own rules, and I don't know that this is especially surprising. I think the surrogacy point is more surprising, given how many people really do want to fulfill what they feel are often religious obligations, deeply rooted family obligations, and desires to have a family, and are able to do so without the help of a surrogate. So condemning surrogacy does feel a little bit more off-brand, if you will, for me.
Yeah, look, I saw a lot of, I think there are people expressing surprise about this because the Pope, Pope Francis, is perceived to be more progressive, although as far as I can tell, he's really only he's quite progressive on sort of economic issues, inequality. He talks about the unfairness of capitalism, those kinds of things. And actually,
Israel-Palestine.
So have previous popes. He still remains, he has not, to my mind, deviated very much on the personal, sexual, relationship, family, moral views of the Catholic Church, while still saying that you're supposed to, from the Catholic perspective, love the sinner, be against the sin, not be condemning people, be condemning behaviors or activities or practices. That's the Pope's position. Now, there are many Catholics who disagree with those positions, but it just kind of is what it is. I have no problem with surrogacy. I have no problem with gay marriage. I support all of those things.
It is true, though, that surrogacy has become a big issue on right media. I'm sure you've noticed that there have been a number of large right-leaning hosts who have condemned the practice of surrogacy, people like Candace Owens and a number of others. They seem to have made the Kardashians a kind of a cautionary tale or something of surrogacy as an exemplar of what surrogacy is about, framed as kind of a laziness for people who just don't want to have their own kids because they're superficial and more concerned with what their body looks like and are willing to exploit low-income women so that they can get around minor inconvenience.
That's the aspect of it. I think, again, this is not my argument, but from understanding how conservatives think about this issue, it's that that there's something, conservatives think there's something really wrong and almost mercenary about having someone else grow and create your child, and they also think that establishes such an important bond. The person, the mother, the person who gives birth to the child, and then to take the child from their birth mother and provide them with someone else, there's something very alien and sinister and wrong about that. It's different from someone who's maybe who has no parents, who's an orphan, being, there's nothing you can do about that. That's not ideal and can be raised by someone else. But if their mother, if their parent literally still exists, is out there, why would you estrange them from that person? That's the argument conservatives are making.
Right.
Again,
although of course it's not, genetically in many cases, it's not their child. It's not the surrogate's child. Sometimes the surrogate is also an egg donor. Sometimes one of the gamete donors is from completely other people that are none of the parties immediately involved. But I'm just qualifying your use of the term their parent, their child.
Well, the person who gave birth to them.
The person who gave birth to them, sure. Of course, there are ethical concerns that are very serious with surrogacy. But it's also true that many surrogates are family members of someone who can't get pregnant themselves. Sometimes mothers are, if they're young enough, able to be surrogates for their own daughters. People are surrogates for their gay siblings. People choose very willingly and without money being involved to be surrogates all of the time. So the Pope having a broad condemnation of surrogacy as a principle, as opposed to, I think, rightly wanting to ensure that people who are paid to be surrogates aren't being taken advantage of or exploited, it seems to be overly broad to me.
Yeah, I'm a libertarian. I think people should make whatever arrangements they want, and that's their business, and I have no problem. I'm, in fact, even supportive of people being able to be parents through alternative means and through technology. So it's not, this isn't me speaking, but this is how a lot of people, a lot of religious conservatives, a lot of Catholics feel about this issue for sure. And so they're probably happy to see the Pope, remaining on their side, so to speak, about this.
Yeah.
Some other news on the kind of culture battlefront. J.K. Rowling, I see, is still is actually now being accused of spreading disinformation about this Scottish hate crime law that we talked about last week by a Scottish political figure, Humza Yousaf, saying that she's wrong, that we're trying to violate freedom of expression, freedom of speech, that we're trying to arrest her. And I think it's interesting the extent to which she's becoming like the face of the resistance to this legislation.
Yeah, I mean, it's, as we talked about last week, I think an overly broad and easily exploited law. And that sets people up to be making arguments in its defense when they really just want to defend the dignity and rights of trans people, which I think is a very worthwhile and noble cause. So I do wish legislators would be more careful about this because, as we know from our reporting here in the United States of America, hundreds of laws were promulgated just this last year in the United States of America aimed at infringing upon the rights of trans people here. So it does feel kind of ridiculous to have the conversation sidelined about a law that I think has legitimate negative implications for people's speech rights when there's so many more important things to be fighting about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want laws that... What do you mean by laws that infringe on trans people's rights?
We've talked about them at length. Anybody who was interested can go to read. We've had her as a guest on the show. I'm blocking her name. Who has kept a running list, Aaron Reed, who has kept a running compendium of all of the laws as they come down, some of which, I think the most alarming of which would limit your ability to dress across gender in a way that might make me break the law today. I don't know, is a pants and a suit jacket cross-dressing? I've been accused in a Q&A of having kind of masculine tendencies in my attire, so.
I don't think I agree with that at all.
I don't know.
That's not me in those comments making those anonymous notes. Well, people have a lot of notes for my wardrobe choices some days. So not so much on the show, but certainly my personal life. More Rising right after this.